Ladies and gentlemen, there are moments in life, quiet, invisible moments, where a person is alive, breathing, smiling, performing. But inside, a silent funeral is happening. A funeral of dreams, a funeral of individuality, a funeral of passion, a funeral of the soul that once wanted to fly. Most people don't die when their heart stops. They die when their spirit breaks, when dreams suffocate, when silence becomes heavier than breath, when life becomes a performance rather than a pulse. Dead Poets Society is not just a film. It is a confession of humanity, a confession we hide every single day behind routines, discipline, perfection, politeness, and fear. We clap for success, but we ignore suffering. We celebrate grades, but we bury emotions. We reward obedience, but punish individuality. We raise voices for excellence, but never for existence. And somewhere in the corridors of that pressure, Neil Perry lived. A heart full of fire, a soul full of dreams, a voice full of poetry, but a world that demanded silence. His tragedy is not rare. It is common. Too common. How many Neils are sitting in classrooms today? How many Neils are in our homes? How many Neils are listening to me right now? Young, bright, alive, yet drowning under expectations. They look like students, but they are warriors without armor, fighting battles against fear, loneliness, and what will people say. The world doesn't see depression in youth, because youth is supposed to be happy, energetic, hopeful. But depression does not check age. Pain does not read calendars. Silence does not need wrinkles, and heartbreak does not need experience. Depression is not sadness. Sadness has tears. Depression has a smile. Sadness speaks. Depression refuses to breathe. Sadness heals. Depression suffocates. We do not lose people when they stop loving life. We lose them when life stops loving them back. When they scream inside but no one hears. When they cry in silence because speaking is weakness. When they shrink themselves to fit into someone else's dream. Neil didn't leave the world because he lacked strength. He left because the world wouldn't let him breathe. And then there was John Keating. A teacher, yes. But beyond that, a soul whisperer, a liberator of minds, a surgeon of the heart, a rebel in a world that worships obedience. He didn't enter the classroom to teach poems. He entered to teach life, to teach courage, to teach breath. Carpe Diem, he said, seize the day. Because time is not a luxury, dreams are not decorations, and life is not a rehearsal. How many of us are waiting? Waiting for permission to live, waiting for the right time to feel alive, waiting for someone to clap before we dare to speak. The world says, be perfect, be quiet, be obedient, be who we want you to be. But Keating whispered, be yourself. Be wild in your heart, be alive before you learn how to behave. And that is the most terrifying rebellion, to simply say, I am me. Let's talk about depression in a way we never do. Depression is when you forget how to be yourself. It is when society becomes louder than your heartbeat. When you stop living and start pretending. And let me tell you, pretending is exhausting. You can fake a smile, but you cannot fake peace. You can fake confidence, but you cannot fake meaning. You can fake laughter, but you cannot fake life. There are kids crying silently in perfect homes. There are adults bleeding inside expensive suits. There are achievers craving love more than applause. There are people who inspire the world and still whisper, I wish someone could understand me. In a world full of voices, people are dying for one listener. Keating couldn't save Neil, not because he failed, but because sometimes the prison is built at home. When the keys are locked inside someone else's dreams, freedom is not living without rules. Freedom is living without fear. Freedom is breathing without apology. Freedom is choosing your own heartbeat over the noise of the world. To everyone listening, if you are hurting, you are not weak. If you are tired, you are not failing. If you ever felt invisible, you are not alone. Silence is not your destiny. Your voice is not a burden. Your dreams are not childish. Your existence is not negotiable. There will always be people who try to shrink you. But remember, even a caged bird still imagines the sky. Dreams do not die. They wait. And sometimes the bravest thing you will ever do is simply whisper to yourself, I deserve to live for me. Stand for yourself, even if your legs shake. Speak for yourself, even if your voice trembles. Love yourself, even if the world misunderstands. And one day, when the world tries to silence you, stand tall like those boys did. Look at your own reflection and say, dash, dash. Oh, Captain, my Captain. I choose my voice and I choose my life. I choose my dreams. I choose my breath. And because life is not in surviving expectations, it is in breathing your truth. Carpe diem. Not someday, but today. Because the world needs you. Not the version they prefer, but the soul you truly are. At the end of it all, this is not just a story about a boy who dreamed or a teacher who believed. It is a reminder that every soul carries a quiet battlefield within. Some of us are fighting to breathe, some of us are fighting to be seen, and some of us are simply fighting to stay alive in a world that praises success but ignores suffering. If Neil taught us the fragility of a silenced dream, Keating taught us the power of a liberated voice, and between the two lies the truth of human existence, that life is not meant to be endured for others, but lived for ourselves. We are not here to fit into molds, to obey without question, to suffocate under expectations, or to apologize for the fire within us. We are here to feel, to love, to fail, to rise, to break, to rebuild, to scream, to breathe, to live. So if your heart is tired, let it rest, but do not let it surrender. If your dreams tremble, hold them close. If your mind feels heavy, speak before silence buries you. And in moments when the world demands perfection, choose presence instead and whisper to your soul, not tomorrow, not someday, but today, I choose to be alive.